Hello, and welcome to our community week on Hope for You. And I just want to, it is Wild Wednesday, and I just want to thank you for joining us. And if you are joining us through YouTube, please subscribe to us. And if it is Spotify and Apple, please do all the good things. Follow, like, subscribe, give us a good review, and join us. Also, we have a Hope City app that you can join us on. So thank you for joining us through there as well. And I just want to thank, we have Chris with us, and Emily, and Clarissa, and Shannon, and it's just good to have you all on here. And so today I have Stephen Walker with us. And yesterday, if you missed yesterday was really good. We got to talk about, Pastor John talked about the vision of Hope City with community. He talked about the difference between outreach events and community work and how they're both needed and how we as Hope City implements in both of them. And one of the things that he talked about that he started with was pop-up. And the reason that he started there was because of a book called What Are You Here For? And the question is if your church ended, would they fight to keep you in the neighborhood? Would they miss you? Would they fight to keep you? And in that process, he talked about getting a grill out and started grilling hot dogs. And that is where Pop-Up joined together and was from that moment. And so today I have Stephen Walker with us. Hey. And we have Pop-Up every Friday from 12 to 2. And we're just going to start off talking about what Pop-Up is, how you can join in, why it is community work versus of outreach.
Yeah. So that distinction between community work and outreach is really important. An outreach event is great. That's reaching out into the community and doing something to draw people in. But to be in your community is something entirely different. That is to be there consistently, to be serving that community, to be in that community, to know that community. And our church is right here in the middle of Jacobsville. So what do? Well, every week we drag out some grills and some flat tops, or we cook inside, depending on weather and cold and hot and all the things, to make sure that everybody in this community knows that they have a place to go to get at least one good meal a week. Ideally, there are other things that they can do and places they can go to get food, but we want to create an environment where they know that they're safe, that there's people here that love them and care for them, people here that know their name, and that's not an outreach event. That's community.
Yes. And so one of the things that is the difference between an outreach event and community is consistency that builds trust within your neighbors and within the places that you're working. And so is Pop-Up Grill about the food?
No. The food is the easy part. The food is we slap some stuff on a grill, we grill it up, we stick it in a bun, and we hand it to somebody. The more important thing is when they get to the front of that line and somebody asks their name. Or says hi to them because we already know them. Mm-hmm. And we ask, how are the kids? How's the husband? How's this? How's that? And we check up on them every single week. And as we go down, that conversation continues. If you've ever been to Pop-Up Grill, if you've never been, please join us. We'll talk about that later. As they make their way through our line, which we have a line to feed people of 4 to 6 people. And every person pretty much interacts with them. That's a huge deal is again, those relationships. Community is about relationships. You know your neighbors, or at least you should. I know in today's culture, a lot of times it's, hey, park your car in the garage and walk inside the house and never come back out. But we know our neighbors here.
Yes.
All of our neighbors around here, we know them. We pray for them. We pray with them. We love on them in every way that we possibly can. If it goes beyond just handing them some food on Friday. If they need a doorknob replaced or something else, that leads into some of the other things that our church is either partnered with or works on. We try to make sure that they know that we're there for them. Skylar's going to adjust my mic.
Your beard's real.
Oh, I'm sorry. I can drop it down a little bit for you. So it's not really
And so with that, one of the things that we do with pop-up is that we have resources there as well. And so on most Fridays, there will be a resource with pop-up.
Yes.
And we have the library that comes, we have medical and dental and all those things that come and join us on Fridays. And so we do have the relationship, but we also offer resources every Friday that those resources can then have relationships with our neighbors and give them away. And so it is so much more than just a hot dog. It's more about relationship, which yesterday, one of the things that I admitted to was that what made me fall in love with Hope City was pop-up, was the way that you guys knew the people. I think one of the things that caught my attention the first time was it wasn't just, I heard you asking about family members, and how is such and such doing, and how's your new job, and how's this, but it was, saving hot dogs for their dogs and knowing about their pets that they had at home. And so how did that come about for you?
So we actually started coming to pop-up pretty early on in the pop-up process. That I think it was that first summer, maybe it was the second summer. I'm not sure. Skylar could probably correct me on that one. It was either the first or second summer of pop-up. We started coming when it was over at the old Burger King here on Main Street, and the Gathering Church was helping out with that, and so that's where we met. Pastor John, at the time I just knew him as John. That's how I got introduced to him. So it's like, it's always hard for me now. It's that he's my pastor. I'm like, Pastor John. But I just met him as John, the guy doing hot dogs. And it was weeks before I realized he was actually Pastor John, because he was just serving the community, No pretension, no anything to it, no nothing. Not that being called pastor is pretentious, but it's,
right.
I don't expect people to wander around and call me professor all the time. That's just ridiculous. But, it's formal and it's proper. But, we just served the community, and we were just kind of handing out dogs, and then the conversations would start, and we'd have a couple of people there that just were praying for people. So we were always learning people's names, and then, after a little while, it became less of an event. I think it kind of started maybe with the idea of we're going to do these events over and over again. But it became less of an event and more of community as we kind of started to understand some of that language and some of those ideas. And so we just made an effort as a group to know the people we're serving, and with a lot of it being serving homeless people and other marginalized, but a lot of the homeless people is people don't tend to want to recognize them anyway. Mm-hmm. And if you recognize them and give them that dignity, it's more impactful to those people. And we just began to see that early on. And so that's just something we always strive to do, is know who you're talking to. Know things about them. So like you mentioned, we have a couple of people that routinely come with their dog. We've got various sets of couples that my wife always confuses their names. It's like a running joke at this point. That she just messes their names up all the time. Till the last group comes and she's got it. But if only the husband comes, which is typically what happens, we're always like, hey, where is so and so? Like, she just, if we're serving inside, she just decided to stay in the car. Her hips hurting her or whatever. We'll pray for them and give them their food and, let that go on. Let them go on with their day or whatever. But it's like, we always want to make those connections and know those people. That's, again, kind of what community is about.
Yes. And yesterday we talked about the need of outreach and community work together. But one of the things that I would say is that an outreach event is kind of like going through a fast food line. There's nothing wrong with it. It's sometimes very needed. Today I did it for lunch, but you go through the line, you get your food, and then you're done with the restaurant. Where community is more about like a sit-in restaurant that you're waiting a full course meal over months and years of being consistent.
Yeah.
And a lot of times people shy away from community work because you don't get that immediate reward all the time. And what I will say though is every pop-up you get some sort of conversation that you didn't have before.
Oh, yeah.
Someone tells you their real name, or someone tells you that they got a job, but you don't experience that just in one pop-up or an outreach event. We experience those things because of our continual work in the community and how we work. And one of the scriptures that came to mind for anyone that does community work is Galatians 6:7-10. And it says, "Do not be deceived. God is not mocked. For whatever a man sows, he will also reap. For you who sows in his flesh will also reap, the flesh will reap corruption. But he who sows in the Spirit will of the Spirit reap everlasting life. And let us not grow weary in doing good. For in due season we shall reap if we do not lose heart. Therefore, as we have the opportunity, let us do good to all, especially to those who are in the household of faith."
Yeah.
And the reason I read that is a lot of times people, when they think of community work, they just see the work and they see coming and you will reap what you sow.
Yeah.
And Hope City is reaping a ton in the community right now.
Oh, absolutely.
But it came from years of consistency and gaining the trust and actually being a neighbor to our neighbors.
Yeah.
And what do you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, I know, and you know, I've talked about this with a decent number of people, and I know you and I were just kind of talking about it earlier today. You know, consistency is a huge thing. And with Pop-Up Grill, I know for a fact it's about 3.5 years now that we've been doing it, and I think we've missed 2 Fridays in that time.
Wow.
And then now we did take a winter off a while back and some things like that, but like it's been, in the last 3 years, I know it's been twice. I forget, one of them was for a storm or something like that, and the other one was the parking lot was ice and it was like freezing cold outside and had rained and frozen. So it's like, people know that we're here on Friday, and it's often fun. It'll be this last Friday. We weren't sure about the weather, so we were doing hot dogs inside. Actually, chili dogs inside. A lot of people like chili dogs, so we did chili dogs inside, and it ended up not raining as we had thought. It keeps doing that to us. God has protected us well, and I don't know why we doubt him sometimes, and we're like, oh, the weather's going to be horrible. But it was 11:15. Somebody knocks on the door. It's like, hey, are y'all doing it today? I'm like, it's been every day for 3 years. So, yeah, like every Friday for 3 years we've been doing this. And he was like, okay, great. We were just making sure. And I was like, yeah, we'll get the signs up soon because we have some signs that we put out on the main roads and stuff like that to make sure people know that we're up and running. And then we get the people that show up, and we also have the fun ones. I think it was about 2:05 this week. We were trying to shut down, and 2 people come running around the corner. They're like, you guys are still open, right? We totally forgot. We were over here and blah, blah, blah. And they're giving us the whole excuse of like why they're 5 minutes late to get food. And I'm like, I got a few hot dogs left. Come on, we'll figure it out. Or I got something for you. But they know when we start. They know when we end. They'll come early. Some of them will help us set up. Some of them, you know, they've embraced the fact that we're embracing our community. And I know, you know, Pastor had mentioned it, I think the other day when I was talking with him, and I know you were asking me this morning of like, and you kind of just, how did we get here? How did we get to Pop-Up Grill? And it's kind of funny. I mean, that story actually, I'll make the joke that I think it would have started in 2007, but we won't start that far back. It was right around 2016. We had some friends that were in a church planter training program, and they were planning to plant a church. And we just had God drop on our hearts that we were supposed to help them out. They live like one town over, and so our expectation was they were going to plant a town over. And then they sold everything and moved from Charleston, South Carolina to Evansville, Indiana.
Wow.
And our family was like, that must not have been God. We must not have heard the right thing. And a few things kind of fell in line, and I always think about it. It was the July 4th weekend of 2017. We had come up here to visit them because they were some dear friends of ours, and they had moved like a year prior or so. And a job opportunity had opened up here, so I put in an application. They wanted me to come in and do stuff. So we came July for an interview thing, and they were doing some work with the Dream Center. And of course, I don't know any of these places. Like, I'm from South Carolina. I had to Google map everything. I had no idea where I was going. But we were staying over on the east side somewhere, and we came down Diamond, and it had me turn on Heidelback, and it had to turn on Morgan. And I pulled up to the intersection of Morgan and Main. And God, like, no one else in the car heard it, but it was close to audible voice of God that you can get. God said, I'm going to heal this land and these people. What are you going to do? And that was in 2017.
Wow.
Pop-Up Grill started in 2020. That was 3 years of trying to do the best I could to get to Jacobsville. Wow. And I didn't get the job that year. And I'm an academic, so I had to wait a whole nother year. Got the job the next year, moved up here. The friends that we had decided to give up on Evansville and moved to Florida. And they're doing some ministry work down there because there was just no traction for them here. They didn't quite get where they were going. We bounced through a couple of churches from some people we knew. And finally, somebody at one of the churches was like, hey, you need to meet this guy, Ray Brown. And so we went down to the Gathering Church. I met with Ray a few times, and Ray was like, hey, I need you on Friday to come up and do this thing with this other pastor that I know that's in Jacobsville, and we're going to do this, and we're doing this thing. And my wife and I walked up. I don't think the kids came that week. I think the wife and I just came that day. And it was me and Kelly, and I think Emily was there. I believe Skylar was there also. And it was Pastor John, and I think Ray was late. And we just started serving people. And it's kind of funny, that book that we mentioned, Know What You're For. It is a great book. It came out in 2019, I believe it was. But all the way back in 2007, our church in South Carolina, Journey Church, if anybody's watching online, hey, Journey Church guys. Probably none of them are watching this because they don't know. Yeah. They're like, whatever. One of the things that we did when we got our first building was our pastors and our leadership got together with all of the team leaders and things like that, and they put a map of the city on the wall. And now Charleston's a pretty big place. It always cracks me up because we moved here, and it's I know Evansville's the third largest city in Indiana and all that kind of stuff, but I'm from what I consider to be a small town, and it's about the size of Indianapolis, so my perspective's a little off. And they drew a circle. They put a little X on our church, and they drew a circle, 3-mile radius. And they go, this is what we're responsible for. Yeah. This is what we are here for. And it, like I said, when we moved here, the thing that I was striving for and looking for is hey, who's taking care of Jacobsville? Because that's what God told me to do, was be in Jacobsville. So it's we went to a couple of different churches, and every single church, we're trying to drag them to events at Dream Center and serve over here and do all these things, because that was our biggest connection was at Dream Center. I've got an old fraternity brother who's the head of the Dream Center, and it's just a thing. I love the Dream Center. I love a lot of the people there, and I love working with them. And they've been good for the community. And like I said, we just kept trying to drag people we were at a church in Boonville, and we're getting people to serve over here in Jacobsville, and they're like, this is not for us. And I'm like, you're right. But it was just striving consistently for that, and it took us upwards of 3 years, about 2.5, 3 years, to find Pop-Up Grill. And that led us into Hope City Church, which led us into leading out on Pop-Up Grill and doing a lot of these other community things, and just really embracing the fact that Hope City had also embraced the idea of community.
That's actually where I met you and Kelly was at Pop-Up Grill. And my background is sustainability in third world conditions. And so one of the things that I was coming to Pop-Up Grill for was I knew that it was not going to be sustainable and that I was going to hate it because it was going to be toxic charity, which, by the way, brings me to the book that we're giving out today. Is Toxic Charity. It's one of the 2 books that I pass out all the time, is Toxic Charity and When Helping Hurts. And but I actually came to Pop-Up with kind of a chip on my shoulder looking for the toxicity in it, because I'm like, you're just going to meet these people, they're going to pass out food, and they just keep on passing out food every week, and there's no step up, there's not going to be anything else. And I was like bracing myself, and instead I found the walkers and the volunteers as a community not serving people, they were serving them, their neighbors. And they knew them by name, and they were serving their family, because by then there's some relationships that had became family. And when I started hearing about the Walker story, one of the things that stuck out to me is that they came here with a certain vision in mind. They knew that God had called them to Jacobsville, and then the plan that they were going forward on didn't come together. And you guys didn't move. And my question for you is, why, and how did you move through that?
Yeah, and so, yeah, we were here, and, you know, like I mentioned, and you and I were talking this morning some, was, you know, we had been introduced to a gentleman, and he was pastoring a church out in Boonville, and so we started to help with that, and we kind of drug some people over here. And, you know, it wasn't a perfect situation, and there were many opportunities for us. I mean, we actually still owned our house in South Carolina for about a year and a half after moving up here, or a year and a piece, something like that. So there were plenty of times where we could have just been like, yeah, no, we're just going to go back to our church that was flourishing and doing all the wonderful things. I mean, when we started at that church in 2007, the Journey Church in South Carolina, it was about 30 people. When we left, it was 900.
Wow.
And it had planted 10 other churches in the community and remissioned about 25 or 30. So it was very much an outreach focused, you know, missional focused in the community, you know, very community focused church that was growing and thriving. And we just packed up and left because, you know, God told us to. And, you know, I kept hanging my heart, and that scripture, you know, from Galatians is you know, just a perfect thing for it. I just kept hanging my hat on what God told me at the corner of Morgan and Main. And, you know, whenever something happens, whenever things don't quite go smoothly, or just things are not looking all that bright, I just go back to the corner of Morgan and Main. You told me you were going to heal this land and these people, and asked me what I was going to do about it.
That is so good, because, you know, so often, you know, when God tells us something and we go through struggle, you know, that's exactly what you have to do, is you have to hang your hat on the word that God gave you and what he told you to do. Because the truth of the matter is there's a lot of great things happening, but being in the will of God for your life is the ultimate, is the best. And if you're not in the will of God for your life, then you can't flourish in the areas that he has called you to, and the things that he wants to place in your life. And so when it comes to pop-up, and it comes to the people serving at pop-up, you know, and serving your community, you know, you have to go back to, what did God tell you to do, and where he has called you at? Because, you know, community work is a consistency, and it's working. It's working a lot every day and every week and coming through. And sometimes you don't see that, even when you don't see that immediate reward, go back to what God told you to do, because being in his will bring you to the place that you need to come. And one of the things I see in the Walker story over and over is that they had many opportunities to not be here in Evansville, to not be in Jacobsville. Their family doesn't live here around them.
It's a quick 12-hour trip. It's fine.
Just a quick 12
12-hour
hours.
trip, you know, back, to visit family, you know.
And then on top of it, they're here every Friday serving and serving to the people. What are some of the stories from Pop-Up that would that you can share that shows the community work and why it's so important?
Well, I mean, I think there's so much that does come out of Pop-Up, and some people, you know, try to focus on, oh, well, exactly how many people are now coming to your church because of that. Well, we get a lot of people who come to Pop-Up on Friday who already have a church home. They don't need a new church home. They have a church home. You know, a lot of times what that person needs and what that church needs is to reach its own community.
Yeah.
And when they hear stories from their members of what our church is doing, then maybe they'll start to reflect on that and move forward in that. We need more churches being the hands and feet of God.
Right.
You know, Jesus went around healing people and you know, feeding the hungry and you know, just all of the things. We need to be doing the same thing. All churches need to be doing the same thing.
Yes.
So when we do that at Pop-Up Grill, it is, you know, that. And so many people see it, like your story of you came with this chip on your shoulder, as you said, and you saw, wait a minute, this is not just like, oh, let's feed some people and go home. This is, let's know these people, let's be a part of these people. And you know, we've seen a lot of the same things. I mean, you know, I'm looking at some of these comments that are coming up, and I'm looking at people like, you know, Chris and Clarissa, they came. You know, we've got Mary Jo, who comes out on Fridays,
yes.
and just so many others. I mean, there's just too many people to name. So that's, you know, a thing of like, you know, yeah, a lot of them are in the church, or they might have come to the church, and then we've had a lot of people do this. They come to church, and then they come on Friday to Pop-Up Grill, and they're like, hey, wait a minute, this is for me.
Right.
And it's a sticking point for them to attach themselves to the church even more. You know, I see a name on there, Nellie, and you know, she was one of my students, and she came to church, and then they came to Pop-Up Grill, and they're like, wait a minute, this is important. And it's one of the things that now I'm not going to say keeps them at church, but it's one of the things where they go, no, I can literally see God moving through the church. Because God moves sovereignly, but God also moves through the church. We are the plan.
If someone's watching this and they're from this area, how can they join you at Pop-Up?
That is super simple. Somewhere around 11 to 11:30, usually around 11:15 on Friday, we are at this building. So the corner of Main Street in Oregon, big blue-gray building. Roll around to the parking lot in the back. We'll let you know where you need to park because we block off the parking lot so that people don't drive through. We have been treated like a drive-through at times.
Yes.
People have driven up to the service desk and said, hey, can I get A? And we're like, you almost hit people. I love you, but please park.
Yes.
And we will serve you at your window if you can't get out or something. We don't mind doing that. But anyway, come. We set up tents. We pull out grills. We roll out tables. We start, you know, breaking out the buns and making sure they're all nice and separated so we can move through them faster. We make sure that hot dogs are thawed and all. We just get everything ready. And then at noon, we like to have a couple of full trays ready to go. And you can put hot dogs in buns. You can put cheese on top of burgers. You can hand people water. You can sit back on a grill. You might have to fight Mary Jo, but you can sit back on a grill. You can help us fetch waters and replace chips and you know, do little back and forth running. You can sit down at a table and talk to people for 2 hours.
Yes.
You know, whatever where you feel comfortable is where we want you to be. That's one of the things that, you know, I like about Pop-Up Grill is just especially when people come the first time, they're always like, okay, so what do I do? Like, whatever you want. Like,
yes.
Whatever you want to do today is what you can do today.
Yes. Find
a spot to sit in and do what you want. Yeah, Chris loves hanging out with people, so he comes almost every Friday. And Chris and Clarissa, my tongue is going to run over itself in a minute. You know, they hang out with people, and it's great. You get some sunlight. You can you know, help clean up. You can. I mean, I think there was at one point we had a couple of people that just really didn't like being outside or out in the mess, and they would literally just wash everything the whole day long, like dishwasher in the kitchen, didn't have to talk to anybody except people they already knew. I'm okay with that.
Yes.
Like if that's what you want, that
yes.
is, I can put you out of the limelight. No, I might try to drag you out front a little bit. It's good to get to know the people and not just, you know, go, hey, I'll wash that for you. Hey, I'll clean that. Hey, I'll, you know.
But the point is that no matter where your comfort level is, it's so needed. Yeah. So set up, cleaning up during the day and talking to the people and being with our neighbors. Yeah. It's all part of the process.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, we've got somebody that is pretty routine about coming but he's got to get home and take care of his wife who has some medical issues. And so he will come, help us get everything set up, shake hands, and walk back home.
And I am so glad that you brought that up, because Pastor John wanted me to ask you particularly about his story. So share his story, please.
James?
Yes.
So I'm trying to remember everything about him. He's great. I love James. He's just a kind guy. I don't remember if he came to church first or if he came to pop-up first. I don't remember which. Because sometimes on Sunday I don't get a chance to like notice and say hi to everybody on some Sundays. You get busy with tasks and other stuff, and sometimes it turns, you say hi to who you know and things like that. But we walked up one day and he was just sitting there, his little hat on, and sitting on the side reading his Bible, and he was like, "Hey, I'm here to help." So I think he came to church first, but I don't know. I really don't know. And he just started pulling stuff out, setting up some rails that we had, and putting up some tents, and just kind of learned and planned helped us with a whole bunch of stuff. And then he said something about, "Well, I got to get going," and he just left. I was like, that was weird. Next week he was there again. Next week he was there again. Next week he was there again. And I swear it took me at least a month to learn his name. It was bad.
He just confirmed he came to church first.
Oh, he did? Is he?
Huh.
Oh, there he is. Hey, he did come to church first. I couldn't remember, my friend. I could not remember. And then he's come to men's group on a handful of times, and he comes to church regularly, and he comes to help. He serves, and he loves his community. At least I think so, because he comes and he serves, and just fades into the background, which I think he likes. I'm not 100% sure about that, but I think he does. Sorry, a comment threw me off. I was like,
no.
Big enough to hold 3 Bibles? I'm sorry, I missed something.
It's in your lap, and your wife said it's your Bible.
It's my Bible. Well, it's my Bible, so it's my Bible. It's a side by side with the new, King James and New Living Translation, and then something I got put onto years ago that I really like to do is I've been working on this for a while. Well, this isn't my first one, but yeah, this is not as full. So this is the book of John, and I'm just copying it line by line. And,
That's awesome.
And I like red letters, so I have red letters. I've got my 2 things. So that's why it's big. Is it's got the Bible and then it's got the Bible.
So since James is on here, one of the reasons Pastor wanted me to bring that up was because he just comes and he sets up. And he has served and he has helped greatly.
Oh, yeah. It's been over a year now, I think.
Yeah. And so there's 2 reasons. One is that James is facing challenges as well. And so that's the reason why he comes and he sets up and he leaves. Mm-hmm. But the other thing is him coming and setting up is a great help. And
oh, absolutely.
Yeah. And
yeah. And I can pick on some of our own members, not pick on, but, mention. So like Paul shows up, and he's usually got 25,000 things going on, because that's Paul. If you know Paul, Paul's got his hands in everything, which is great. I mean, he loves Jesus, he loves the church, he loves the community, and he does what he can. And he'll come, and he'll usually do something like set up all the, help get the flags set up or whatever. Sometimes he'll just do it himself. Sometimes he'll drag Shane in along with him. That's my son. And then he'll be like, "Okay, I'll be back in a couple hours," and he'll come back, right at 2:00 or 2:05, and he'll be putting all the flags away because we're done, and he'll take the trash out. And that's what we'll see of Paul that on a lot of Fridays is we'll see him. He'll go do something for a couple of hours. He'll come back and finish up, and that's a great help. We've got to roll all the tables away because we got the big round tables that we roll away, and we got to fold up the other ones and move a whole bunch of chairs. And if somebody comes and just comes in the beginning and sets trash cans out and puts flags up, and then comes at the end and pulls the flags down and throws the trash away, we're like, that is one less thing that I have to do. And I guess it kind of goes back to that old saying, many hands make light the load or whatever. It's a true statement, and again, kind of going back to the difference between a community outreach or an outreach event versus community. You know, if this was an outreach event and we did it, you know, maybe once every 6 months or randomly or, you know, only when asked, because like we were asked to basically do pop-up at the eclipse.
Right.
And we basically pulled off pop-up at the eclipse. And, you know, that was a great event. You know,
Yes.
like I said, there was a lot of come and go. We met a lot of people, shook a lot of hands, handed out a lot of drinks and hot dogs and things like that. A lot of them were to people that will never come to our church because they're not from here. But even people in our community saw that, and, you know, it was connections with some of the people that we're already connected with. That was great. We had a whole bunch of people that came out, some people that were pretty normal, regular servers, some people that didn't normally come out with us on Fridays. But being in the community every Friday, having, you know, a group of people that overall are consistent. And I think that's even the more important part. I know that, you know, our story, oh, sorry, I just hit my mic. Our story's a little bit different in that, you know, we decided to take this on kind of as a family project. And I think you kind of already mentioned that, is it's like our whole family comes out. We have the luxury of homeschooling, or that we homeschool. So our whole family comes out on Fridays for a few hours and does this. But overall, we have a consistent group that comes out. And that doesn't mean that everyone's there every single week. It means that we have a group of people,
Right.
probably a solid 20 to 25, that we can rely on. And we have some that are what I would call backups
Right.
in a lot of senses. And not to pick on people, but I mean, pastor's usually busy with something on Friday. Skylar's got a lot of work that he does on Friday. But if we have a lot of people that can't make it one Friday, I know that those two will be there.
Yeah.
You know, and I know that, you know, they will reschedule a meeting or something else just to make sure that we have enough people to feed people and shake hands and pray for people and to spend time with everyone who comes out. And, you know, like I said, 20, 25 people deep. And, you know, now we're starting to talk about, hey, is there a way we can split this into a rotation of some form where we've got 2 teams of people doing this?
Right.
You know, who would have thought that, whatever it was, 4 years ago with 25 people, 25 hot dogs served one Friday,
Yeah.
that it was going to turn into, you know, 25, 30 people serving upwards of 200 meals served in any given week. Yeah, summer kicks in, folks. We're going to have 200 people come through our parking lot here
Yes.
on a Friday.
And I think the point of that is that, you know, pop-up being consistent has brought consistency to people coming. And so the numbers have grown to around 200 during the summer. We do serve homeless, but we also serve families.
Oh, yeah.
You know, lots of families that's in the area. And one of the things that I love is just watching the people and gaining a relationship with them. And so we just want to, if you're in this area, we want to encourage you, come join us. We start setup about 11:15. There's no registry. There's nothing like that. Just show up. And it doesn't take any kind of a lot of things together. It just takes coming and willing to be present in the moment. And on your level of comfort is the place that you'll be put in. And so that's what's really cool about pop-up. And so that kind of brings me back to community work. A lot of times with community work, people sit back and they wait because they feel like they should have a special word, or they should be able to pray in a certain way, or they should be able to whatever it is that is stopping people. And I just want to tell you that nobody's disqualified, because usually community work is just about being present, being consistent, and being willing.
Yes,
And,
absolutely.
you know, I love it because when I get to have the conversation about the difference between an outreach event and community work, a lot of times people want to say, well, you need to have a strategy, you need to think through all these things. And what I want to say is Hope City does have a strategy.
Yes.
We do have a plan, but also about you personally is just being present in the moment. It's just realizing the person that needs the door open to open the door. It's just being consistent in the areas and being consistent is the main thing.
Yeah.
Because as you are consistent with people, you start noticing differences between and with them,
Oh,
you
yeah.
know, and as you know, and have relationship. And out of relationship comes the question of, will you pray for me?
Yeah.
Have you considered this?
Yeah.
What is some of the stories that you got from Pop-Up because of
Well,
that?
yeah, I was gonna say, I mean, I'm always amazed by the sheer number of people that I've been able to interact with over this one thing, which is, oh, well, church always just, you know, disappears, or they never do what they say they're gonna do, or things like that. And now it's 3 years on, and they don't have that excuse anymore.
Right.
They don't have the excuse of, well, you know, you guys just, you know, it's all hit or miss. It's like, no. Every Friday for 3 years, except for 2 storms. And it's fun because sometimes we'll get new people that come in that are either newer to the area or just haven't quite found us yet, which I always find amazing. Like, how did you not know we were here? It's been 3 years, people. It's been 3 years. but they'll wander in and they'll be like, hey, so when do you guys do this, like, often? I'm like, every week for the last 3 years, every Friday.
Yes.
And they go, no. Yeah, every Friday for the last 3 years.
Yes.
And they're like, how do you do that? And we're like, we have a dedicated group of people that serve. And we're like, I'd love to see you here. I'd love to see you on Sunday, you know, 2 days from now. Come on back, you know, 11 o'clock. I'd love to see you at men's group, you know, things like that. Or at, you know, Monday night prayer, like all these things. It's like, hey, we want to see you back. It's not that we're wanting anything from you. It's not that what we want is the best for you. We
Right.
want you to have Jesus, which is the best thing you can have. And just, you know, walking through that with people and seeing them especially now that we have some that have been coming year over year over year, and you see things where it's just like, you know, pray for me, I just lost my house, or
Right.
you know, I got kicked out of my apartment or something like that, and we just sit down and we pray for them, and we pray for them throughout the week. I mean, that's not necessarily a one and done thing.
Right.
You know, that's you know, Lord, just please help so and so because you know
Right.
this thing's going on in their life. You know, you and I sat down a while back with someone and you know, prayed the sinner's prayer with them and stuff like that, and their life has not gone according to plan since then necessarily. Right. We still pray for that person. We still want to see the best for that person. We want to see them healed and restored and redeemed, and they have to walk that out. That's on their plate to walk that out. But you know, just seeing so many people, you know, come and know that it's a safe place. It's it's not, like you said, it's not the food. The food's the easy part. The food is, some people come in the door because of the food, and we have a few of those that's just, they show up because it's a free meal, and
Right.
they do not care at all what we're doing, and that's fine. They've seen the hands and feet of Jesus now,
Right.
and they can make their own decision. Unfortunately, they're not currently making the correct decision. But that doesn't mean that a year from now,
Right.
you know, 6 months from now, 2 days from now, 5 years from now, that they won't start to turn and make that better decision, and choose God as their pathway forward. But we're still here to serve them,
Yes.
and we're still here to walk life with them. I just saw Brittany on there. I love Brittany. She's so great. She's one of our regular helpers. You know, her family is consistent and great, and just, you know, they've benefited from Pop-Up Grill, just like, you know, all of us have benefited from Pop-Up Grill in multiple ways, you know.
Well, you know, Emily just made a comment. It says, even those people who don't care about us or church and just want a meal, they being touched by the anointing, they're forever changed.
Yeah, they
and
are.
it's that consistency of
Yeah.
being here. And one of the
Yeah.
things was, there was a survey that was done in this area, but one of the greatest things, even with Christians and non-Christians, is that they don't trust the church.
Yeah.
And I have had church hurt in my past,
Oh,
and I
me
am
too.
sure many of us have. And one of the things I would say is a difference between an outreach event and community work is an outreach event has usually a sharp, intense, quick impact,
Yeah.
and then it's gone.
Yep.
Where And it does penetrate to people, and it does make a difference. So please hear me. I'm not talking bad about outreach events.
Not at all.
Not at all. But what community work does, it has a tendency to come in and just be that consistent place that people can run to.
Yeah.
And as you are consistent, those people that have all those walls up that we were never a part of, and like I said, I came here with a chip on my shoulder, right,
Yep.
against the church. And I've been a Christian since I was little. I've been working in the ministry since I was little, and I had a chip on my shoulder. But the consistency and the love of the people is what helped me. But we have people who have walls, and they don't know God as well as even I did when and so what happens in community work, and you're consistent, whether it's pop-up, whether you're walking the streets, whether you're just being consistent in your communication with your neighbors, is that you start gaining that trust. Hey, they're always here. They're not, and they're not judging me. They actually love me. They actually care for me. And a lot of times in community work, we get the opportunity to see people who come to us and say, we hate the church. And we stay consistent. We say, well, we love you and we're here for you. And they kind of have this look on their face, like, you're still willing to serve me? And yes, we're more than, in fact, we want to serve you more. How can we help you? What about your kids and those kind of things? Yeah. And it's those relationships that gains the trust back of who God is. And God he never changes. He's faithful. And to have the opportunity to show the faithful hand of God through opportunities like pop-up and things like that is priceless. And so not only do we thank the volunteers of pop-up and thank the volunteers of Hope City, but we are so grateful for the people out there that's doing community work on a consistent basis to bring the trust back to the church and back to the kingdom, so that God's love and faithfulness and the truth of who he is can be heard.
Absolutely. That's a really important thing, and it's one of those where, and we hear it sometimes on Friday, and I try to talk to people, especially there's a handful of them. People will come through and they'll praise us and glorify us and say all the great things that we're doing, and then they'll bang some church 5 blocks away or across town or whatever, and I'm like, but they're doing what God's called them to do.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Don't do that. If you think they're not doing something right and you're in regular communication with them, you know what? Talk to somebody there. Be like, hey, I think we could do this better. But I think Pastor mentioned it. I think it was yesterday. Could have been a previous one, because has come up with if you think something's not doing right, or you think something could be done in the community or something like that, it's probably because God wants you to do it.
Yeah.
So, that's kind of where it is when they start, if somebody starts banging on something, I'm usually like, well, maybe you should go do that thing. Maybe you should help them with that, because if they're not doing it to the level that you think of, then maybe they need you.
Exactly.
Same thing with us. If there's something more that we could be doing or whatever else that you think you can do, please let me know. I'm sure I can find a spot for you to do that on Friday.
Right, exactly.
I can definitely find a spot for you to help out on Friday to help us do better.
Yes, exactly, exactly.
So.
Well, the other thing I would say about pop-up is that the consistency of pop-up has allowed other people in the neighborhood and other organizations know that we do care for the community, and then we're consistent. And so what it's caused is other conversations. And so one of the things is that, we talked yesterday about how I was just basically placed in the community to say, I am here to listen, to learn, and to serve. Well, one of the things that gained the trust of them to talk to me was, first of all, I showed up to just listen, to learn, and to serve. And one of the things that kept them coming to me was I was able to come with no agenda. And also, they knew us from pop-up already. They knew Hope City from pop-up, because Hope City always has pop-up. and that we were always there. They might have not known the details, but they knew that we were always there.
Yeah.
And so what that allowed was conversations of, hey, since you've came for a few months, and they got that trust, because I wasn't there to push any agenda, just there to serve. Could you help us with such and such? And so it gave us an opportunity to not only serve our community even more, but actually serve the leaders that's been serving our community for many years.
Yeah.
And so to have that opportunity to walk in the community like that has been amazing on that hand. And so the other thing I would like to say about community work is it's the ability to come in with no agenda. And I know a lot of people start questioning me. Aren't we supposed to pray with people and salvations and deliverance and all those things? And I just want to tell you that all those things will come. They will come.
Okay.
They come all the time. They happen all the time. But it also comes through relationship. It comes through conversation. And I often ask people who ask me those questions is, do you know their name? Do you know their children? Do you know their favorite color? Do you know where they work at? Do you have to know all those things to pray deliverance or salvation? No. Absolutely not. But that in community work, it's more about relationship, and out of relationship will come those miracles and those things that you want to see. It's just not a fast food line, though. Yeah. You don't drive through the drive-through and immediately get your result. And is those things that happen on the streets, a fast food line, outreach events, are they bad? No, absolutely not. And we have seen them many times. I have been in outreach events. I've been a part of crusades even, where I saw many healings, many salvations, and many stuff. But the question is what happened after? What was their foundation after? And what was the effect after? Because often you go there, you pray, and you're gone. Where in community work, we are here. Hope City is here.
Yeah.
And our goal in the community is to be the refuge point, to be that light on the hill, so that when the people that come every Friday that might even be like, I don't like church, but give me a meal, when they start, we've seen it over and over, when they start hurting, when they start walking through stuff, and one of the people, I can't even think of their name right now, they were just always really rough. They came and got their meals. But when their wife got cancer, they became immediately soft, asked for prayer, sat down with us, started talking to us. And it was from the consistency of the volunteers being here with a smile.
Yeah.
And then the other thing I want to say is, do you matter? You matter. You matter.
Yes.
And I think sometimes what we think is when other people are doing stuff and there's other people there, we think, well, I'm not needed. But you matter, because only you have your experience, only you have your vocabulary, only you have your background, your story, and your testimony. And I promise you that the community needs your testimony.
Absolutely.
It needs your story. It needs your vocabulary. It needs your experience. Even just the things, I'm not even just talking the testimony of your salvation or the testimony of how you moved from your family and you held through, but I'm talking also about that you like certain sports the things that you like are important when you start talking to people and reaching the community. And so the other thing I would say is, if you're wondering, if you're sitting there and saying, do I matter? Am I really needed? And, sometimes I have people say, well, I drove through, but I saw a lot of people there and I don't think I'm actually needed. And the thing I want to say is, you are needed. And if we don't have enough people to talk to people and have relationship with people, then we're just handing out food.
Yeah. Yeah, if we don't, that's, and I really appreciate it. Like I said, Chris and Clarissa, I cannot say Clarissa's name correct today to save my life. Love you, Clarissa. They've been coming pretty consistently for a little while now. And before that, they were a little bit more hit or miss, but they would show up and they spend time at a table talking to people, just building that relationship with people. And again, kind of going back to what you were talking about earlier, is if we don't have that community building, then we're a fast food restaurant.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
I have cooked them food. I have handed it to them. They have eaten it and walked away.
Yes.
Because we may not have the time. Come out during the summertime sometime, even if you're not there to serve one day, you just want to come out, and please come out and grab a hot dog or a hamburger or both and hang out for a few minutes. You don't even have to come out and serve every single week. You can come out and just get a meal every single week. You'll see when we start hitting 150 and 200 people, we need 10 people just to serve, just to get food into people's hands.
Right.
I need 10 people. And if I don't have somebody who's just sitting on a table or just hanging out in a line, just saying hi to people, those people get greeted, they get talked to the best that we can while we're serving 200 people in 2 hours.
Yeah.
I mean, that's more than a person a minute.
Yeah.
That's a 30-second conversation with somebody.
And the thing
That's
about
a fast food line.
Yeah, and it's that fast food place. But the thing about pop-up that makes it so special is that having those people that is willing to hang out and to talk to people and getting to know our neighbors, because we are a part of Jacobsville. We are Jacobsville. Hope City is Jacobsville. And so having the opportunity to sit down and talk with someone and just have those conversations, like, how they're doing today, where are they at, those kind of things, and introducing yourself to them as well, because a lot of people are just needing relationship, and out of relationship then will come the questions. Why are you different? Why do you do what you do? Why do you walk the way you walk? And out of that will come the foundation that's needed for their deliverance, for their healings, for their salvations. And that's where we see the consistency of those things growing.
Yeah.
And
I mean, a community, an outreach event is great. And like I said, we could see salvations, we could see healings, we could see deliverances, all these things. Where do they go after that?
Exactly.
They're going to go to their community. And if their community isn't our community, it's probably where they just came from.
Yeah.
So, it's a big difference on that front. If they see us in community and as part of their community, then when they're coming out of drug addiction or an abusive relationship or just out of lack of godlessness, not even just godlessness, where are they going to find those connections? Well, if it's just an event, we go, well, we've got this thing coming up and that thing coming up and this other thing and blah 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 blah, and we give them the list of things, and then I never see them again.
Right.
With us building community, next Friday they come back for another meal, and I go, hey, I noticed I didn't see you on church on Sunday. Is everything okay? How'd it go? Because you kind of said you mentioned you were going to come, and we were kind of worried about you when we didn't see you. And they're like, really? You actually care? Yeah.
Yeah.
Did that thing work out? Did you get the house, or did this happen, or did that happen, or where are we at in the process? Is there anything else, that we can keep praying for you, or is there something else we can do?
And that's where it comes from.
Yeah.
And it shows the love of God and his faithfulness. Well, this hour has went by quickly, and I don't know if we reached 100 comments or not.
Yeah, we did a while back.
So it tells you on your screen there.
Okay.
Does it really?
So he's going to show me where it tells me that we reached 100 comments, and we're going to see who won this book. And as he's finding the 100th comment, first of all, I just want to thank you guys for joining today. And Chris Miley, you are our 100th commenter, and I think you might already have this, but you can give it to someone else too. But it is Toxic Charity, and it is a great book. And thank you for joining us. And once again, if you're from this area and you want to join us with Pop-Up, feel free to come any Friday at around 11:15. We are here to serve the community. If you're not from this area and you are considering community work, we just encourage you to not grow weary. Don't grow weary in doing good, because the seeds that you're planting has a great harvest coming. If you are doing the work of the kingdom and you haven't seen your harvest, it is coming. Don't grow weary. Keep planting the seeds that God has told you to plant. If things are not turning like you thought they would, don't give up. Hold on to the word that God gave you like the walkers did. Stay in the area that you're supposed to be at, because God needs us. We're doing his kingdom work to be the kingdom in the community, to grow in relationship. He has called us to be present. He has called us to be neighbors. He has called us to grow in our community and the relationships so that we can show him. And I just want to thank everyone that has been here today, been with us today, and I pray that you are inspired to continue to work in the community that God has called you in. God bless.
Amen.
Have a great day, and join us tomorrow. We are going to have some people from Midland, Michigan, from Elevate Ministries that is doing a lot of community work, and we've been spending some time with them and learning from them. So come and join us tomorrow, and let's learn about more community and what we can do in the community. Thank you.